On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
More than 90% of buying decisions are emotionally triggered. You can have logic, but emotion is critical. You need to stand out using a brain trigger. And when you use a brain trigger, you want to mentally trigger the brain. Johnny Cochran got O.J. Simpson off from an almost certain guilty verdict in a murder trial. How? If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. A murder trial. You know, two of the jurors were asked, with all that evidence against O.J., why'd you find him not guilty? And there were two jurors, and one of them said, well, the other one's nodding her head. Well, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit, so we had to acquit.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz, Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host. We are back here today with another king on the stage, my man, James Bond. My man, James Bond.
Hey, Chaz, how's it going?
How you doing? I'm so glad that you're here. You know, we were just kind of goofing around with your name a little bit. Hey, make sure you say the middle initial, because if you're gonna Google my man over here, I want you to find the right James Bond. So, James, I appreciate you being here. Tell us what kind of business that you got here.
So I'm one of America's leading behavioral management specialists, and this is actually blowing people's minds. I ran a marketing and behavioral management firm, one of Southern California's leading ones, for more than 13 years.
Wow.
We had some of the world's most famous people we work with. Warren Buffett's team, when he started buying his own businesses and he wanted to just change the mental capabilities of the key people there. I work with just like a ton of some of the world's largest companies and stuff like that. So it was really lots of fun.
Wow.
I'm also author of a book called Brain Glue, which is blowing people's minds. It's one of the most powerful persuasion books ever written. And this is not me saying this, but people are reading and they're going, oh my God, I can't put the thing down.
Yeah.
If you're serious about boosting the selling power of your ads, emails, social media posts, and personal presentations, and you don't know how to do this, or you don't even check this out, you're missing something that's critical. And I have this, like, Jack Canfield. I actually got a quote from him video, which is really great. Jack Canfield wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. He sold 500 million books.
Crazy.
500 million. 100 million Chicken Soup for the Soul, and 400 million of the Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, Chicken Soup for the Cancer Survivor Soul, and all that stuff.
Wow.
500 million books. If you make $1 a book, that's not bad.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need me telling him what to do. He was blown away. And he's forcing everybody in his company, his advertising people, his book writing people, his book publishing, his cover for his public speaking. He's got like all these different people on all these different layers, and he's using this.
Right.
And he said he couldn't even put the thing down. He actually got mad at me. He said, I couldn't put the damn thing down. It's like, I have so many books to read. I'm looking at this and like, oh, wow. And I'm starting to take notes on it.
Yeah.
That's because it's so powerful. So, which is exciting for me.
That's amazing.
It happened by accident. I uncovered this.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's, Brain Glue.
Well, James, I got to tell you, because first off, I love the brain. I love behavior. We were actually just kind of talking about some entrepreneur behavior a few minutes ago before we hit the record button around the lottery and such. But why brain glue? Because as soon as you said brain glue, people's minds are being blown. I'm like, oh no, the glue's not working. No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, why brain glue? What's the baseline here?
Jack and Jill went up the
hill.
Okay. How long ago was the last time you heard that? Okay. For me, I go like 10, 20, maybe 50 years ago. For me, it's over 50 years ago. And yet we remember it like it was yesterday because it sticks to the brain like glue. There are I discovered 14 brain triggers that boost the selling power of your message by sticking to the brain. If the glove don't, and it works to sell products, it works to sell books, it works to sell speeches, it works to sell social media. They have this woman, how much money do people spend on social media advertising? Okay. How about if you spend 0 and have 5 million fans? She spends 0 and has 5 million fans. And I explained it. So, she's a stay-at-home mom, with her kid. and she wanted to create a Facebook page. So she's thinking, okay, mommy needs time to herself. Mommy needs, I don't know, rest. I know what mommy needs. Mommy needs vodka. Her page is mommy needs vodka. I remember I'm looking, Facebook, something on Facebook, and I go, oh, here's a cute little comment. It's a funny post. And then I see it's by mommy needs vodka.
Yeah.
I clicked on that. What the heck's that? Clicked on that. Came to her page. She's got lots of cool stuff. I became a fan.
Right.
How much money do we spend on marketing, on advertising? How much work do we do to try to persuade people? And they don't seem to get it,
Yeah.
And so it's brain triggers. Brain triggers is like, I have this metaphor for brain triggers I just came up with, okay? Because I was thinking, so I told these women this joke, okay? This weekend, actually. And I said, and they're religious, so I thought I'd do a religious kind of joke. And I said, so a little girl comes up to her mommy and says, Mommy, Daddy says we came from apes, but you say we came from Adam and Eve. Honey, Daddy's talking about his family. I'm talking about my family. Okay? So I realized that, and a lot of people laugh at that, and they were laughing, but I realized this thing, okay? There's a trigger somehow in there that made them laugh.
Yeah.
But if I told them the joke a second time, they're not going to laugh, or maybe they'll laugh just to be nice to me.
Right.
But it's already worked, and it doesn't work again. And so as I'm thinking through this process, I go, okay, because I want a metaphor, which is powerful metaphors are a powerful way to use brain glue. I'll give you examples. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Men aren't really from Mars.
Right.
But when he changed the title of his book, it went from 20,000 copies to, get this, 50 million copies sold.
Wow.
Not 50,000, 50 million, just by changing the title.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I realized metaphors, Jack Canfield wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's, it's not chicken soup. You don't open it up and get chicken soup. It's a book.
Right.
Okay. But it's really powerful. So here's a metaphor that works for me that helps people understand how powerful brain glue is. So you're at home and you get in your car and you're driving down the street. You see all these houses. You've seen them every day because you're just driving down the street. Then you notice one of the neighbors has flames coming out of his window. Whoa, hold on a second. What? There's a trigger that stopped, you're not even noticing it. And then suddenly something's there and is that, if you see a guy is trying to break into one of your neighbor's houses, you're driving down the street.
Right.
What, but so flames out of the window. We need flames out of the window in our marketing.
That's
and
right.
The reason is because we're so bombarded with information and ads, and you see people walking down the street with their phones. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, they're not even, you're talking to people, you think they're listening. You think people are listening, but they're not. They're thinking of, oh, wow, did I forget to lock the door? Did I forget to turn off the stove? Did I, did I just lose a major client? Am I going through a divorce? I mean, they look like they're listening. Oh yeah, sure, it's a good idea, but I don't think we want to do it right now. And you think, well, I tried to persuade them, but they didn't. It's because you don't have flames coming out of your window.
Yeah.
You need to have a way to trigger the attention so that so that suddenly they go, oh wow, and think about this. I'll give you a bunch of tools. I'll give you a bunch of examples. Okay.
Sounds good.
Pop Tart, Squatty Potty, Big Ass Fans, Famous Amos. Okay. I mean, they were just, how about this one? The whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. The enemies of Wonder Bread came up with this to try to, and they almost bankrupted Wonder Bread. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many of them. It's just blowing people's minds when they realize it. It's also phrases like, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, that's something called chiasmus. Okay. It's one of the tools. President John F. Kennedy said, if mankind must put an end to war will put an end to mankind.
Right.
Okay. Malcolm X said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock, the rock landed on us.
Mm.
Wow, is that more powerful than if you said, oh, you have no idea how hard it is being a black person in America?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
wow. He also said, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
Well, and by saying it that way, the brain has patterns. There are certain patterns that it has.
That's right.
One of the patterns is memory. So if somebody says something to you over and over and over again, you're going to remember it. McDonald's ads and Coke and all that stuff. Okay. But we usually don't have the money that a McDonald's or a Coca-Cola has.
Right.
And we still want to market. And so what we want to do is we want to trigger a brain trigger, a pattern that's inside the brain that sticks to the brain. So they go like, whoa. And I'll give you a perfect example. So let's say you're in the West Coast, I'm in the West Coast, and you're starting a hamburger place. And so what are you competing with? McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, okay? I mean, Carl's Jr. I mean, you're competing against huge companies that spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising. So how do you compete? Why did you come up with a really cool name? How about In-N-Out Burgers? In-N-Out, well, for most of us, we remember In-N-Out means sex, okay? So we start there. But In-N-Out also uses chiasmus, which is a flip, okay?
Right.
In and out. And so when you're driving by and you go, okay, In-N-Out Burgers? What the heck is that? Of course, it's a drive-through and stuff.
Right.
So it makes from that standpoint. But we're just the other day, we're driving down the street and we're, In-N-Out, there's a massive pile of cars waiting to go through In-N-Out Burger. They almost always have that. Why? And they spend, how much do they spend? Almost zero on advertising. They don't have to spend money on advertising. They put a big sign up on a major street that says In-N-Out Burgers, and suddenly people stop and go like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
Well, let's check that out. They check it out. They like it. Of course, you have to have good product. But if you have good product, good service, you could still starve to death.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's
most are.
Pardon?
Most are.
Exactly. And that's the problem in business, is that we have so many people out there have a fabulous product or a fabulous service, and yet you're struggling. You don't need to struggle. And here's a great example, okay? So Pop Tarts, we know Pop Tarts, right?
Yep.
Well, Pop Tarts was invented by Post Cereals, even though Pop Tarts is owned by Kellogg's. Post Cereals is competing with Kellogg's, and so they wanted to come up with, think about this for a second before I tell the story. How'd you like to invent something and some competitor beats you so much that nobody buys your product so much that you have to go out of business, and they're getting rich about it, okay? Right. That's Pop Tarts, okay? So Post Cereals was competing with Kellogg's, and they have with different cereals and stuff like that. And so they came up with this idea of having a Pop Tart, having a little cake type thing with jelly inside it. You put it inside a toaster, and they came up with the name, and they called it Country Squares. And about a month and a half before they launched it, they started bragging, we're coming up with this new product that's going to change everything. You put it in a toaster, and up comes this beautiful thing, and we call it Country Squares. So the CEO of Kellogg's looked at it, because he knew a lot more about brain glue, even though he didn't call it brain glue back then. And he said, okay, what are we going to call it? First, we want to call it Pop. It should have the word pop because it pops out of the toaster. And back then, Andy Warhol was famous, who was a pop artist. So he said, pop art. Oh, everybody knows the word pop art. Why don't we call it Pop Tarts? This is how famous they became, okay, and how successful. He ran out of product. They didn't make enough. They couldn't believe how many people were buying the product. Right. And so they actually ran full-page ads in like the New York Times and stuff saying, we apologize, we've run out of product because so many people love it, but it will be coming back soon. Nobody bought Country Squares. They waited for Pop Tarts to become available again.
Wow.
And then when it became available, then Pop Tarts, it exploded. And what happened is it exploded so much that Post ended up dropping the product that they invented.
Wow. What's the takeaway here, James? Because you're talking about brain glue, and obviously it's the name. But what the listener right now, they're running their business, big, medium, small. We've got them all listening. What's the takeaway here? I got to go rename my business, or I know that's not what you're saying, but what is the takeaway here that I can use practically today?
So there are 3 levels, okay? The first one is the name of your product, service, or business. The second one is how you describe it. And the third one is how you present, okay? And I'll give you some examples. So I had these 3 guys who built a construction company, 3 partners. After 10 years, they had 2 million in sales. Okay, that's not bad. 2 million in sales, not bad. In 1 year, I took them to 10 million. By the way, they razzed me. They said, hey, Bond, it was supposed to be 12 million. My comment was, shut up. Okay, they bought each other brand new, the biggest BMW you can get. Okay, 3 as gifts for reaching 10 million in sales. They went from 2 to 10. 2 years later, they reached 32 million in sales.
Wow.
So how did I take a company that's already existed, and they finally reached 2 million in sales, and go to 10 and then 32 million in sales with almost no work, by the way? So I pulled out a whiteboard. They were really funny because they said, we don't use whiteboards. So when you're finished with working with us, I was working with them for like 9 weeks. And they said, when you're finished working with us, you can take the whiteboard Well, actually, the next week I showed up and the whiteboard was filled.
Huh?
They said, I work with subcontractors and it's amazing. They make promises all the time and we never write it down. But they started making promises. The guys are sitting around the table. I pulled out the whiteboard because it was there. And I started writing down what their promises were. And guess what happened? They started searching for pens and paper so they could write down their own promises.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and he said, so you have to leave the whiteboard. That's all he got that. I lost the whiteboard.
Awesome.
But the point was, so I said, let's make a shopping list of all the different types of clients you go after. And it took them it took an hour. You know, who else? They've been in business for 10 years. Who else? You know, what other types of clients? Okay. And then I said, let's play a game. Let's get you to pick one type of client you're going to go after, and you're going to say no to everybody else. And they said, we don't want to say no. I said, well, it's a game. Let's just play it this way.
Yeah.
Out of this list, they came up with fire restoration for insurance companies. Now, I don't know construction, so I had to say, well, what's that? They said, well, it's insurance companies. Whenever they have a client that has a fire, we go in and the first thing we check is the frame. If the frame is damaged, you got to tear down the whole building. If it's not damaged, then you have to set it up in such a way that it's not going to catch fire again and all that stuff. And so, okay, so you want to go for fire restoration for insurance companies. So when you're pitching it, we won't get you to change the name, but when you're pitching it, why don't we call it should have the word fire in it because they're thinking of fire.
Right.
Fire extinguisher. We'll call you guys the fire extinguisher for insurance companies. Okay. And we'll get the website firex.com to make it easy for you. And then we'll make that forward to your website or a page on your website. And they went, oh, wow. And so I went with them on like the first two presentations to prospects. And one of the things that happened is prospects would laugh. We say, just think of us as your fire extinguisher. And then every time you have a client has a fire, call us in. We'll water your fire extinguisher. They started laughing, but they started buying.
They started remembering.
Okay? Exactly. It stuck to the brain. They went to fire. The guy's got a fire. Oh, I got to call my fire extinguisher.
Right.
It clicks right away. And it's really, really powerful. I'll give you another example. So there's a mom and her son in Utah, and the mom is sitting on a toilet. Okay. Sorry to give you this one, but here we go. The mom's sitting on a toilet. And she realizes that it helps the body to go to the bathroom if you can raise your feet like about 6 inches.
Right.
So there should be a little stool. And so maybe we can start a business and get a manufacturing company to manufacture it for us. And what do we call it? We could call it the toilet stool, but that doesn't really work. But what is it? Well, what's another word for toilet? Potty. Okay. And then we have to kind of squatty potty. Let's call it the squatty potty. Okay. Which is rhyme.
Yep. And then let's get a unicorn in the ad to have unicorn ice cream.
That's right. Pooping. That's exactly rainbows.
That's right. That's right.
And then feeding it to kids. I mean, it's like, okay. But they had fun with it. But Squatty Potty, they generated over $100 million. By the way, they had the money to pay for advertising. Okay, a lot of people don't. They had the money to pay for advertising because people were buying it off the shelf. They couldn't believe they were selling it first online and through Amazon and all that stuff. And they were selling tons of it. And then they had money. When you have money, now you can spend it on things like advertising and stuff.
Right.
Okay. But I'm assuming we don't have money to start with, or we have little, and you want to spend as little as possible, but explode your sales.
Yeah.
My wife always says, because she had the idea too, but she never launched it. And she said, maybe we should call it the stool. I said, I don't think that works, Pam. stool. But Squatty Potty, it's fun. It's funny. It's memorable. It explains what the product is. And sales, 100, how many people who are on this call today, have $100 million after 2 years with no business experience.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. All into the name. So what are the ingredients of brain glue then? I mean, if you're talking about it's the name of your business. Okay. Well, if you can't rename your business, like in the example that you give, you rename the service or rename a catchphrase that allows people to remember you. What are the ingredients when I'm thinking about naming this thing, whatever I'm trying to name?
So I have 14. I'll take you through just a few of them. So I won't take you through all 14 of them. Because check out the book. You can go to Amazon, just check out the book. It shows you all 14.
There you go.
But it's things like, so here's one. So let me give you a perfect example of this, okay? With something that's 3 tools. So I like to say that metaphors are really powerful. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Men aren't really from Mars. All you ladies out there, we're not really from Mars, okay? But, things like that. So the TV show Shark Tank isn't really about a tank full of sharks, okay? Right. I mean, it might feel like it if you're on the show.
Yeah.
Rocky Road ice cream, okay? Rocky Road ice cream. When you open it up, it doesn't have rocks inside it. guess what? Good news. There's no rocks inside Rocky Road ice cream. It's chocolate ice cream with nuts and marshmallows. But the sales exploded. Rocky Road started to help Dreyer's ice cream become massively successful. And they were a small company. They had barely any money, but they kind of stole the name from somebody else. But they came up with the name Rocky Road ice cream, which is chocolate with nuts and marshmallows. So why did they call it Rocky Road? Now, it was started during the Great Depression. That's important because it's the third tool I want to say. So the first one is they use the metaphor, Rocky Road. It's bumpy like a rocky road. That's kind of fun. The second one is it uses alliteration, Rocky Road, the repetition of sounds. And I started realizing how many blockbuster products use alliteration in their names.
Wow.
Coca-Cola, PayPal, Best Buy, TikTok. Think of TikTok. What if they called it the Chinese social media platform? You think it would be as successful as TikTok? No. TikTok, it's cool. We don't care where it's from. It's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So alliteration is a powerful tool also. So that helped Rocky Road ice cream. The third tool they used was humor. The Great Depression was called "We're all on a rocky road," and this is what people said: it's a real rocky road, the Great Depression that we're on. So their comment was, "We're on a rocky road anyway. We might as well have Rocky Road ice cream." Yeah. And people kind of laughed. And by taking these three tools and putting them together, suddenly it made people go like, Rocky Road ice cream. The first time they saw it, what is Rocky Road? And they start checking it out. And that's the first thing we want to grab their attention. Again, it's a flaming window, okay? Yeah. A neighbor's window that flames. You want to grab their attention first, and then you want them to study it and understand it. And you want to make sure, and this is something that's profound. It's so profound, it's just blown my mind. You want to make sure that it explains why they should buy your product, or at least what your product or service is. Okay? And so I want to give you a perfect example of something that everybody thinks is successful, and it's a failure. Okay? Got Milk. Isn't Got Milk an amazing campaign? Here's an article from Business Week magazine, okay? It was from about a decade ago. It says, Got Milk, after a $385 million campaign, sales still continue to decline.
Wow.
Why does Got Milk? Now, my daughters have a poster for the milk mustache. I've got the book, a Got Milk book and a milk mustache book. I mean, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
But why do people not drink milk? So if somebody has lactose intolerance, okay, when you drink it and you start feeling sick, I don't have lactose intolerance, but I hear people having it, so I don't drink a lot of milk anymore, okay, because in case. So if somebody has lactose intolerance and they say, Got Milk, you might love the ad, but you're not going to buy the product.
Right.
Okay, whereas Squatty Potty explains what the product is.
Yeah.
Shark Tank explains what the product is. You're going to watch this show and it's going to be scary because they're attacking the person. It's not really happening, but we kind of imagine it happens. And so you take tools like this. People. That's why I have Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield, he doesn't need me telling him anything. And he said he was pissed off at me because I couldn't put down the damn book. He's forcing everybody in his company to read it and use it. Not just read it and use it, because it helps people use it.
Yeah.
Why? Because he said, so I wrote a book, 101 Motivational Stories That Will Change Your Life. And that could have been the title of the book. He was thinking 101 motivational stories that would change your life. Really profound stories.
Sure.
Okay? But it bothered him because it's a left brain title. It's a logical title, not an emotional title. Okay.
Right.
Doesn't trigger emotion. And so he's thinking, and it drove him nuts for a couple of weeks, that he's going like, that's such an ordinary title. How many people have that title? And then he woke up one day and he said, Chicken Soup. Chicken Soup makes you feel better. This book makes you feel better. So I should call it Chicken Soup for the spirit, helps your spirit. Yeah. But it bothered him. He was telling me for a few days, he was thinking spirit doesn't really work. But SOUP, SOUL, it's alliteration. Soup, soul. Soul sounds better. Chicken Soup for the soul. Once he said it to himself, his brain knew this is it. Right. Wow, this is it. And then suddenly he went, I'm going to call it Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I had to tell people what Chicken Soup for the Soul was. He sold
it worked.
500 million books.
Yeah.
Okay. Follow a guy like this, and he said he's realized how many other books he's written that he should have used brain glue type stuff in the title.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
He wrote Success Strategies, which is massively famous, and it has success strategies. So it's SS, so it's kind of alliterative. But still, he said I could have made this much more powerful, and it helped him realize, we often use, and I didn't invent brain glue, I discovered it. I invented the term brain glue. Okay. But people look at it and they go like I said, Jack and Jill went up the,
Yep. That's right.
hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down. I mean, how can I remember this? It was like over 50 years ago that I heard it, but it sticks to the brain. And when we understand what sticks to the brain, it becomes profound. Now, let me give you a quick example of a metaphor, okay? That just so I know you want to ask me a question. But
No, go for it. Go for it. You're giving great value.
So Paul Tran invented an electric razor for men's private areas. Okay, I don't want to get into that too much, but okay. And so he thinks, I don't want to offend people, but I want them to understand what this does. So he's thinking of it, and he said, well, what's it like? And that's one of the things I talk about is think of an analogy or metaphor. What's it like? Well, he said, it's kind of like a lawnmower. Oh, wow. Why don't I call my product the lawnmower? The lawnmower and shaver. People are going to laugh. And by the way, he called his company Manscaped. We're going to landscape a man with a lawnmower. Okay.
Yep.
Tell me you're not laughing on that one. And so what happens, by the way, laughers are buyers. Okay. Let's start there. So what happens is, if I have one, I don't, but if I have one, I'm not going to share it with any other guys. Let's start there, okay? But I'm going to share the story. I'm going to say, you wouldn't believe what I just bought. I bought the lawnmower. The lawnmower, your lawn. No, it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And it gets people laughing, but it explains what the product is.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's just profound. He sold over $100 million. He had huge companies coming and saying, we want to buy you. He said, you're not offering me enough. Because he's realizing this thing, people love the product. But how many people have a product people love, but nobody buys it?
Right.
Yeah. And here people are loving the product and buying it and sharing with friends. Hey, guess what I just bought?
That's right.
And that's what we want we want the flame to come out of our window, because people are driving down the street. They see your ad and everybody else's ad. They see your product and everybody else's product. They see your message and everybody else's message. And you need to put a flame coming out of your window. And that's what brain glue is. It's the trigger. If there are certain triggers we know that exist. I got interviewed. They wanted to share this with one of the world's largest neuroscientist groups, okay, NPN Hub. And they were like all taking notes. So you guys are neuroscientists. You don't know this? You didn't realize all these triggers,
Right.
I mean, it's like if you're going to create a play on Broadway, okay, and about women's rights, what would you name it? Women's rights? Nobody's going to show up for that. Why'd you name it the Vagina Monologues? Okay. What's it called? Trigger words. The product Naked Juice,
right.
Okay,
yeah,
was competing with Odwalla, which is owned by Coca-Cola. You think Coca-Cola has a few bucks to spend for marketing,
just a few,
especially if they're competing against you?
Yep.
Odwalla dominated the juice industry, and I think it was really good juice. But they came up with the name, trigger word, Naked Juice.
Yeah.
And actually, first they hid it because they were embarrassed. But then they decided, let's make it really big. They went back and they redesigned it with the word naked huge.
Yep.
And sales exploded, shot past Odwalla, and they're the dominant, or one of the dominant. They might be the dominant juice that's out there, Naked Juice. I mean, Naked says what their product is, which is natural. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
But it says, if it says natural, how many times do you see that?
Yep.
But Naked Juice?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow.
There's obviously several components here that you're giving to us. It's all really great value. So I appreciate you sharing all that. You've given a lot of product examples, which I think are great. And we have people that are listening that have a lot of services too. Bring it home for us. Maybe there's a contractor listening, or maybe there's a person that does marketing services. This is human services. And so is this a way for them to name the next offering that they have? Is this part of how to build an offer in your mind?
Yes. So we're the Naked Construction Company.
Right.
Says you can't do that. Okay, what? Okay, here's the problem. Everybody think about this for a second. It's just like the car driving down the street, okay? Are you the only prospect? Are you the only alternative that the prospect has?
Probably not.
Or do they hear pitches all the time?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they hear pitches all the time, which most of them do, if you invented something new, maybe that's different. But but the lawnmower, well, I guess never mind. But the point is, you have to stand out. You have to be that flame coming out of a window.
Yeah.
Okay. Because otherwise, they're not going to notice you. You don't notice your neighbors anymore.
That's right.
It's because you're driving past the thing because you're going somewhere else or to work or somewhere else. Okay. And you need to stand out, and you need to stand out using a brain trigger. And when you use a brain trigger, you don't have to start your product on fire, but I mean, you want to mentally trigger the brain. And since what I talk about is natural triggers, and we have Johnny Cochran got O.J. Simpson off from an almost certain guilty verdict in a murder trial. How? If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. I remember he plus O.J. pretending, exaggerating how the murderer's glove didn't fit him.
Yeah.
A murder trial, two of the jurors were asked, with all that evidence against O.J., why'd you find him not guilty? And there were two jurors, and one of them said, well, the other one's nodding her head. Well, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit, so we had to acquit. That's how powerful this is.
Right.
I mean, it's so powerful. When you learn, that's what people are going through this. When you learn this and realize what this is, and I've got an audiobook, so if people don't want to read it, you can go through the audiobook too. I mean, it's blown, and it's not me talking. It's Johnny Unitas. He's awesome. He's a fabulous narrator. I don't know if that's his real name, but anyway, but I remember it. But I just, you want to, as you start reading the book, you start going, oh, like I start going through alliteration, Coca-Cola, PayPal, Best Buy, TikTok. And then you start going, oh, I never even realized that.
Yeah.
That all these guys use alliteration. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
About rhyme. How many attorneys go to trial and use rhyme? How many people go on a presentation and use rhyme?
Right.
Here,
yeah.
I describe my product, okay? You need to switch your pitch if you want to get rich.
Right.
Okay. I want to show you how to light the fire of desire in your buyer.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to Chat GPT and asked it for some ones because I wanted to get one. I had to go through like hundreds of them, but I finally got one. Why brain glue? Because plain glue doesn't stick to the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But we have to understand that these are wired into us. And if you're marketing, you want to use these, because when you use these, your sales explode.
Yeah.
Because it becomes easier to remember. And then not only do they remember it, but they start thinking about your product and service.
Right.
Because remember, they're busy. They're thinking of, am I getting a divorce? Did I just win a client? How are we going to service them? Did I just lose a client?
Yeah.
Did I, is it raining outside? Did I close the windows on my car? I mean, they're thinking of, you're talking to them and they're going blah, 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 blah. And it's just, they're not even hearing it. I remember this Blue Emu is arthritis cream that you put on like your joints and stuff if you have pain in the shoulder or whatever else. And so I'm watching, they have Johnny Bench. Okay, so they have money. So they have Johnny Bench, who is a famous baseball player who's retired. He's in the Hall of Fame probably. And they have Johnny Bench talking. He's talking about Blue Emu. And I'm like doing something else while the TV's on. And then he says, Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. What did he just say? What, it works fast and you won't stink. Now I'm listening to the commercial. What did he just say? Yeah, no. And he put it on the thing, and he never really totally explains it. But he said, "It works fast and you won't stink." And it's like he's got my attention, And it's amazing. It's amazing. Here's a powerful one. How did Marilyn Monroe become famous? I'm going to share something I think nobody realizes. As I explain it, they're going to go, "Oh wow, I noticed that. I never even thought of that." Okay. So Marilyn Monroe, she was originally Norma Jean. I forget what her last name was, but her manager said, Marilyn is a better name than Norma Jean. So she goes, okay. And I think it's when her stepfather is named Monroe. So she went Marilyn Monroe, which is alliteration. Okay.
Right.
Then back then, early in the movie industry was Jean Harlow, who was a massively famous, and they loved her, and she loved Jean Harlow. And Jean Harlow had platinum blonde hair. So Marilyn went to the actual hairdresser that Jean Harlow went to on a regular basis and had her hair colored the same color. So now she looks really good. But, Marilyn has a beauty mark, a birthmark on her cheek, on her left cheek, and she'd cover up with makeup. So one day she's looking at pictures of Jean Harlow, and then she notices something. Jean Harlow has a beauty mark, and sometimes it's on her cheek, and sometimes it's on her chin. And then Marilyn goes, I bet she doesn't even have a beauty mark. I bet she's putting a dot on her face to bring attention to herself.
Yep.
Okay, Cindy Crawford did this, okay? I'll explain this. She became a supermodel. And she went, and so instead of hiding it, the beauty mark, she darkened the beauty mark with like eyeliner or something. And suddenly she believes that was one of the main reasons why she became super famous. By the way, as you see pictures of Madonna, sometimes her beauty mark is on the left side and sometimes on the right side of over her under her nose. But
That's awesome.
Cindy Crawford, when she was young, she had a beauty mark. She has a birthmark over one of her lips, and she's a supermodel. She's massively famous and successful and everything else. And she's begged. She was saying how she begged her mom, "Can you please get this removed?" And her mom wouldn't get it removed. And she says, right now, "I am so happy my mom never got it removed. I believe it's part of why I became a supermodel."
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So what made me think of this originally and start researching this was there's a famous advertiser named I'll think of his name in a second. Now it's driving me nuts. And he was like in the early days of the advertising business. He was really famous. And he was doing ads for Hathaway shirts.
You talking about Ogilvy?
Pardon?
Ogilvy?
Yes, David Ogilvy. Thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you. Thank you. David Ogilvy. And David Ogilvy was doing ads for Hathaway shirts. Now, just before I tell you what happened, his ads were so successful that they became so rich that Warren Buffett bought it. That's why his company is called Berkshire Hathaway, because Hathaway is the Hathaway shirts that he bought. Okay, but they were a small company that made shirts. So if you're doing a full page ad for a shirt, what would you do? You have a good looking guy with a shirt and one of the nice shirts, nice pants, shoes, and a nice background, right? But you see that all the time. So What did he do? He put an eye patch on the guy. This is asymmetry, okay? We like symmetry. My wife, it drives her nuts that some guy has a lazy eye, and she goes, this guy's driving me nuts. He cover half his face, he looks like one person. Cover the other half, he looks like another person. It doesn't bother me as much, but it bothers my wife.
Sure.
Asymmetry, okay? Well, so he recognized everybody looks the same. Every ad looks the same. So he called it the man with the Hathaway shirt, and he had a guy with an eye patch. So people would read it. The man, what's this guy with an eye patch? Okay, it's a cool shirt. Man with a Hathaway shirt, and they'd read it. He never explained why the guy has an eye patch.
Right.
It became a blockbuster of success. Why? Because he's got a flaming window. Remember, you're going past all these ads, and they all look the same, and suddenly one of them has an eye patch.
Yeah.
Okay? Like Marilyn Monroe with the beauty mark. It attracted attention. And I'm not saying all of you out there have beauty marks. All you guys out there, put dots on your face, put an X on your face and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
And by the way, there's the guy, I forget what his name is, but one of the superheroes that's in the water all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's just a movie came out about him. Aquaman.
Yeah. Yeah, Aquaman. And he's got, look at his eyebrow. One of his eyebrows is missing part of the hair right there. And when you look at it, you go, okay. And you always notice it, even though you don't realize that's why he's famous. That's one of the things that is the thing that makes him stand out from everybody else.
Yeah.
And so when we understand these tools, we can use it to become this flame that's standing out of the window.
Right.
Out of the window. And I'll go back to this lady with Mommy Needs Vodka. What does Mommy need? Mommy needs vodka more than anything else. But it grabs your attention. And she spends zero on advertising.
Right. How
How many people out there spend a fortune on social media advertising? Do you have 5 million fans? She has 5 million fans and she spends zero. When you learn these tools, you don't have to spend any more money and suddenly your sales explode. I mean, explode. It's amazing. And that's why, it's so much fun. People are sharing with me like, hey, I did this and look at this. My sales doubled just by changing the ad. I have a candle maker. And so we called it Stinky Candles. What didn't really work. We had other ones. I'm not going to say what it is because she's just launching it right now. But she did a test run and people were standing in line to buy her product, her candles. And it's like, what? It's what? And it's because when you understand brain triggers, you start using it, you start applying it either in the name of my book used to be called Sell More with the Right Brain Marketing Strategy. Okay. Left brain title for a guy who's selling right brain marketing. Okay?
Right.
Jack Canfield tortured me. He said, the whole book is about brain glue. What the hell's this thing? Sell More with the Right Brain Marketing Strategy. You're teaching us how to do right brain selling or emotional selling, and you've got a logical title.
Right.
I'll give you all the quotes you want. I'll tell you, because I love this. I'm sharing with all my people, but you have to change the title. You want to use my quotes? Change the title. It's called Brain Glue. I'm like, do I have to? Because on Amazon, you lose all your reviews. You have to, because once you pass 100 reviews, Amazon helps you a lot more.
Right.
But no, he was right. And it's just, I have friends that said, I couldn't remember the name of your book because it was such a long title, even though I love the book.
Right.
You know, and I'm so glad you changed the title. Now I can tell people, go to Brain Glue, and they remember it. And it becomes really, really powerful. And just, I'll invite everybody, go to braingluepage.com, the page, and you'll get to see that Jack Canfield's quote and some of the other ones. And I didn't, I mean, it's exciting to share this, because once people do realize this, they go like, you're describing, so your podcast is awesome. You're Chaz Wolfe, which is already Brain Glue. It sticks, okay? You're it's awesome. And you're
Appreciate that.
But you also talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
The good, the bad, and the ugly uses Brain Glue. It's powerful.
Yeah.
The good and the bad, so it's a chiasmus, which is a flip, and the ugly, which is a trigger word. Using ugly, it's like vagina monologues. Okay.
Right.
So the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, tell me some of the other movies that the same guy made. I forget what his name is. Sergio Leone, okay? Who was famous. He made Clint Eastwood famous and everything else. People remember the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, they can't erase it from their brain. Right. But the other titles, for a few bullets, I forget what it is. I can't even remember it. I love those movies.
Right.
But the good, the bad, and the ugly, you can wake me up in the middle of the night. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll remember it. And it's because when you understand the patterns of the brain, you start applying it, and it sticks.
Yeah,
it's
powerful.
Flames coming out of the window, and it works. It's lots of fun.
Well, you have brought. I mean, you talk about fun. Like this, it's a hydrant of information. I'm excited that you're as excited as you are, because this is really powerful stuff. And you've done an amazing job here. I just want to plug the book here. Obviously, I'll be getting it, but I want to make sure that the listeners know, like, there's plenty more other than what you've shared, which is just an incredible thought even in itself. But I can't even dissect any of that, because it's just like incredible value. You just backed it up like a dump truck and gave it to us. And so I'm so thankful. But I want to end by asking this question, because you've obviously been doing this for a long time. You understand, this principle, this flaming window, to a very deep level. And so my question that I usually end the show with is, what would you whisper to your younger self? And so I guess in this same lane, what would you share with the younger James, or maybe the younger entrepreneur listening right now, about Brain Glue? What do you know now deeply that you wish you would have known 20, 30, 50, however many years ago?
That logic doesn't sell as much as emotion. And we need to marry the two together. I'm a logical person. A lot of people out there, if you're technical, if you're good, you have a good business, you're probably a technical person. You've figured out technically how to make this thing or offer this service that's really technical.
Yeah.
We're logical people, but selling is about emotion. There are two famous people, a Harvard professor and then a Nobel Prize winning psychologist, that both talk of Daniel I forget what their names are, but anyway, actually I have it here somewhere. Anyway, whatever it is. These two guys that have discovered that more than 90% of buying decisions are emotionally triggered. You can have logic, but emotion is critical. In marketing, we hear it a lot: know, like, trust.
Right.
That's a trigger. But you don't want to rely on that. If you're running an ad, they can't know, like, and trust you. Maybe they'll trust you because they know you. But if they don't, that can't be the only thing you depend on. And so what you want to do is you want to understand that people are motivated from an emotional standpoint. I remember I went to, early on, Zig Ziglar. He changed my life. The live conference, he's dead now, but he was a live workshop I went with, him and me and my wife. And he said, you don't have to teach somebody how to sell. We all know how to sell. It's transference of passion.
Right.
Okay. And so the kids know how to sell. Hey, mom, hey, dad, can I have this ball? You're in a store. No, please, no, please, no, please. Can I hold it? Yeah, okay, fine, hold it. Then you're at the conveyor belt. Here's this ball going. You're looking. Oh, okay, how much is the ball? When you have a movie, I love the Hidden Figures, the movie with the black women in NASA and everything else. I love that movie. You don't have to teach me how to sell it, because I have so much passion that's embroiled in it that I know how to sell it. I say, oh, you got to see this movie. It's a great, you can't shut me up, okay? Because I love it so much, it's easy. But the problem is that once we start trying to market or sell, we turn off that emotion side and go to the logic side.
Right.
And that's what I realized. I'm good at logic because I'm a problem solver. I was a consultant for tons of companies and people and all this stuff. I had to solve their problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
I had to be good at I'm good at problem solving, but that doesn't work with selling and persuasion, because people buy for emotional reasons.
Yeah.
Okay. And when we understand that some of the tools, or the tools of brain trigger tools, so you understand how to trigger emotion, it becomes fun. Jack Canfield was telling me, if I was selling the book 101, motivational stories that change your life, I wouldn't have had as much passion as Chicken Soup for the Soul. Hey, you got to buy Chicken Soup for the Soul. He became more passionate. Think about the guy with this lawnmower. How much fun is that to sell your product? I work with a paint company, and they were talking about paint is boring. And I said, you're crazy. You guys paint. They start telling me how paint works, and paint on airplanes has to be thinner because it adds weight to the paint. To the plane, that it can't, the color can't fade, even though it's way up there, high up. So it's got the sun's rays. You have a plane that lands, and the paint is peeling, and the color is coming off the paint. You're not going to feel really comfortable getting onto that airplane.
Nope.
And so we buy for emotional reasons, and that's what I needed to discover for myself, because I'm a passionate person, but I'm logical.
Sure.
I love music. Music changed my life. I would listen to all the stuff, and my parents couldn't tell me what to listen to back then. We loved the Beatles, but we went on and loved all these other things, and I would listen to what I wanted to listen to. And it was passionate. Wow, this is great. And that, to me, that's the key, is you want to marry what you're selling. Start with logic. Okay. But now you want to marry it with passion.
Yeah. And
with emotion. And when you marry it with emotion, big ass fans, Carrie Smith, he had a big fan company. He bought this, he had made some money in his business. So he bought this fan company, and he was calling it, they're huge fans. So he didn't know what to call it. And one day he was trying to, they put it in barns.
Right.
You're not going to put air conditioning in a barn. So you put a big fan in a barn. And he said, do you guys get this? Big ass fans. And he said, why don't I put it in an ad? And sales exploded. He went, maybe I should change the name of the company to Big Ass Fans. He did. He actually put a donkey. The logo was a donkey with a butt facing, and in his face, his head turned towards you, and his big ass fans. But he sold this company. He started with virtually nothing, and he sold his company after 15 years for $500 million.
Wow.
How many people after 15 years you're lucky if you can get anything?
Yeah.
Okay. You're trying to survive, and he's not surviving. He couldn't believe how easy it was to sell the product or sell it. He started getting distracted and offering other products, and he realized, what am I doing? Stop screwing around with that. I'm the big ass fan company. That's all I'm going to sell. He stopped selling everything except the fans, and sales absolutely exploded because we're so overwhelmed. That's part of the problem. Is all of us are so overwhelmed. Your prospects are overwhelmed. You have to understand that. And they're listening to podcasts, and they're listening to a TV show, they're listening to a radio show. Then they see ads, and then somebody tells them about something, and they see it on their T-shirts. We're bombarded, and then they see it on their phone because they're always on their phone. We're bombarded, and you need to light the fire light the fire of desire in your buyer, light the fire in that window.
That's
so
right.
When they're driving by, they go, "What?
What is that? What did he say?" I love that you gave that depiction of you in the house, and you turn your head towards that comment from that advertisement. You are obviously a wealth of knowledge. I'm gonna encourage the listener to get the book again, and I think that they would be silly not to, just because you've given us so much in such a short period of time.
And it's fun. I guarantee it's fun. This is not. People read this and they can't put it down because I've got jokes in it, because Brain Glue uses jokes.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to use your own madness, which I love.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like you're in the Matrix. I've done that many times with buyers over the years. It's like if you peel back and they're like, "Wait a second, you're doing this to me like literally right now." Yeah, I know. So I appreciate that. Where can we find the book? Where can we just connect with you if we're just interested in following you, following maybe your content, even if it's outside the book? Tell us where to get the book, where to follow you.
So Brain Glue page is the best way to go, because it takes you through the book, takes you through me and all that stuff.
Perfect.
But Brain Glue page is the best way to go. It shows you the awards it's won. It's won lots of awards. It has, Jack Canfield's video of him talking. He talks for, I think, 2 minutes. But
love it.
I was blown away. I thought the book was good. But when you get famous people who are saying, "No, this blew my mind," I couldn't even shut them up. It was like, I'm forcing everybody in my company to get this thing. It's like, "Oh, thank you. Can I use that?"
Yeah.
Yes, if you change the name.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. He said, "Yeah, how dare you? You're torturing us by changing everything to emotional selling, and you got a logical title.
Exactly.
Get rid of that title."
Yeah, and what a great friend at this point, I'm sure, just to call you out on your stuff. That you were behind the 8 ball on your own techniques. And so I just really appreciate your time. I appreciate you giving the page there. We'll put that in the show notes. You have been like I said, a fire hydrant of information, and I cannot wait to go get into the book because these things matter. I think that there's a lot of people listening today that I'm sure resonate with sales the way that I do. I've been in sales a long, long time, but I never wanted to be that, icky, salesy person. I wanted to be true and authentic and help people. And so I think actually what you've given to us is a way to be able to just see it a little different. It doesn't mean that we have to be slimy or say things that aren't true. Because that's how I think a lot of people see the flaming windows as something that just aren't true. But what you've actually done here today is said, no, like just put a name on it that does make sense, that is true, but that also grabs the attention. So I appreciate the just authenticity in that, and maybe just the good character, good nature that you have that has built this product. So thank you for being here. We wish you nothing but the absolute best in all that you have done and will do this year. Thanks for being here.
You too, Chaz. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.